Hello and welcome to Empire of Wargames. My name is Eplash and today we are going to talk a little bit about the changes I would like to see for Tau, considering the rumors say they are releasing in January. If you enjoy the content, consider leaving a thumbs up and subscribing, as well as supporting the channel on Ko-Fi. The link is down in the description below. Alright, let's get into the video. I have been talking about the rumors a lot lately and they have been highly accurate, and the rumors say that we are getting a new Darkstrider model for the Tau and that the Tau are getting their new codex and all their releases including a combat patrol in January, which is not that far away. So I figured why not talk a little bit about them, talk about my expectations and what I would change about the faction in general. I think when it comes to faction philosophy and the general approach GW has to take on a faction, Tau are by far one of the factions that need the most work or a complete rework if that's even possible at this point. Tau need a lot of work when it comes to the rules, to their general design when it comes to auxiliaries, some models, and they need a clear focus when it comes to their HQs and other choices, but we'll go over that one by one right now. So the first thing on my list is Ballistic Skill 3+. An army-wide Ballistic Skill 3+, except for HQs, which should be a Ballistic Skill of 2+, should be the norm for Tau. Tau have only one phase in which they are effective, and that's the shooting phase. And I think also that this is the least controversial take here. Tau should be hitting on trees, and it should have been the case for quite a while. Riptides were strong in 8th edition, don't get me wrong. Riptides hitting on trees would be kind of very good. But yeah, there are not only competitive players playing Tau as an army. So yeah, Ballistic Skill 3+ should be the norm, army-wide. HQs should be hitting on 2s, in my opinion, and that is that. Meanwhile, when it comes to marker lights should be changed when it comes to their general philosophy, how difficult it is to apply them, and their general use cases. I think marker lights can be simplified, marker lights can be easier to apply, and it makes the game way quicker and easier, and I feel like this has been the goal for GW for quite a while. Even though the game gets more and more complex, they are trying to streamline it in other places so it doesn't get obscene when it comes to the length of a game. So I think marker lights should be changed to 3. The first one allows you to reroll once to hit, the second one ignores any and all cover, and the third one gives +1 to hit. So a shooting faction, or a faction that can only really deal damage during the shooting phase, hitting on 2s and rerolling 1s should not be controversial in my opinion, and should be the norm, because Tau have lots and lots of weaknesses and no clear strengths as it stands, and making their clear strength really shine should be the norm, especially considering that their faction not only, is not really great at shooting right now, but also the board got smaller in 9th edition, and melee seems to be emphasized depending on the mission setup. Some missions are, just 18 inches away from each other. And yeah, Tau just don't have a chance to even, retaliate or build up a wall or a castle to defend against a charge of Drukhari, which get to them literally on turn 1. Speaking of diversifying the Tau meta and the general approach to their design, Tau need a second damage phase desperately. And I'm not talking about the psychic phase. I don't think psychers fit Tau. I also don't think melee fits Tau. Tau are not melee based, but Tau desperately need another damage phase. And I think to keep them flexible, it should be in the movement phase. There are obviously some HQs and some models and some characters that are a big problem for Tau, and they seem nigh unkillable, and those are the Setan shards and Gasgul Thraka, considering their rules say that you can only deal a certain amount of wounds per phase. For Gasgul, I think it's 4. For Setan shards, it's 3. It doesn't matter. You can't kill them with Tau or any faction that is just focused on a single phase per round. So giving them more movement options and more stuff during the movement phase, like for example having a stratagem that deals mortal wounds whenever crisis suits fly over or next to an enemy unit, or for the infantry they could have a stratagem that allows them to fire pistols within the movement phase, just to name a few examples on what small changes could be made to actually make Tau a more aggressive threat and deal with these Titan charts and these models that are going to have those rules that just allow for a certain number of wounds to apply per phase. The next thing I would change about the Tau as they are currently is to make named characters and non-commander suits viable. When it comes to the HQs, the commander suit has been by far the best option for quite some time. So much so that some 2000 points lists take 5 of them. Meanwhile, I feel like characters like Shadowsun and Farsight are far and few between, mostly for narrative or crusade games, and they need a boost to be interesting, especially Shadowsun being the high commander or whatever it's called, needs to be more interesting, more aggressive, more just all around better, in my opinion. The same thing applies to models like the Darkstrider, but considering the Darkstrider is rumored to get a new model in January, I think it's going to be great model-wise when it comes to the rules. I also don't think the Cadre Fireblade needs a boost per se. I think the Cadre Fireblade is very cheap and still very, very useful. And the Cadre Fireblade is just going to benefit from a general boost to the troops, to Breachers and Pathfinders and so on being stronger in general. Speaking about infantry, putting a little bit more spotlight on them would definitely be helpful. Over the last few years, the focus of Tau has clearly been the battlesuits, mostly the big ones like the Ghost Kill recently or the Riptide in 8th edition, and I feel like it makes sense for the Tau aesthetically. But I feel like the infantry was always seen as more of a hindrance than something Tau players actually really enjoy putting in their lists. Giving Crude, Breachers, Pathfinders, etc. more spotlight would diversify lists a little bit. I understand that most Tau players play Tau because of cool mechas and cool robots and so on, but having small dudes support your mechas from the ground is kind of cool too, at least in my opinion. So making them a little bit stronger and thus enabling the Cadre Fireblade to be more relevant, again, would be very, very cool. The next thing I would like to talk about is if GW actually wants to make Ethereals a thing or not. Ethereals have always been in a weird place. GW has thought of unique rules and mechanics with the elements and so on to make them stand out, and yet their mechanics are weak. GW decides that Ethereals are kind of cool and makes some models for them, yet there's not nearly enough models for them to warrant them being relevant. Some of them are fine cast, some of the models and named characters are dead, and the only cool model and the coolest Ethereal is the one only available in a start collecting. It's very, very weird. It doesn't make any sense. I want GW to clearly emphasize their intentions with Ethereals and either give them a clear place in the army, rules-wise when it comes to the models, or remove them in order to focus on other Tau units like auxiliaries and other HQ choices for regular Tau, instead of just shoehorning Ethereals in there without them actually having an idea how to do that properly. But speaking of auxiliaries, please make Crude and Vespids a little bit more interesting. The Crude kit is not bad by any means, but I think a new one for the Crude and Vespids and them getting a general update, especially the Vespids are getting old now, I don't think anyone would mind. Also, I would like to have more auxiliaries available. There's one thing to keep in mind though, which is why I think GW is so hesitant to add more auxiliaries to the Tau roster, which is that they are probably scared of alienating existing Tau players who are only in the faction for the cool mechas and battlesuits and so on, which I totally understand. But auxiliaries don't have to have 20 different kits and be a huge focus of the army. A single new decent kit with different build options and so on and different bits for Crude, Vespids, maybe human auxiliaries, and maybe one other alien race would be more than enough. 4 kits. It's literally 4 boxes, and that would be enough to make auxiliaries cool, interesting, diversify the Tau roster, maybe even add some melee, and yeah, all in all help out the army by quite a bit. And lastly, I have a few minor things I would like to mention, which is that I want GW to consider making a proper upgrade sprue for the Farsight enclaves, akin to the one the Pathfinders are going to get in the next release for the Kill Team box. Making Farsight enclaves feel significantly different from other Tau forces would add to their appeal and their overall place in the 40k lore. For GW to offer more models in plastic and replace all the finecast stuff, most notably the drone snipers or the sniper drones. This goes without saying, but yeah, I hate finecast resin and I hope all resin models are gone by 2025 at the latest, and that we are done with this chapter, because resin GW resin is really not that great. Also, I would like GW to consider adding more Tau terrain. I think what Tau have currently looks very, very cool, and adding more wouldn't hurt at all. This applies to any army. I would like more Xenos armies to have more terrain available. GW has released some terrain. It's bad rules wise, but it looks really, really cool usually. So having or being able to build a small fort out of Tau buildings and Tau weapons and so on and drone parts would be really, really cool. And yeah, lastly, make the new Tau Combat Patrol highly varied with a non-named HQ, an infantry troops choice, some battle suits, and a small vehicle or a broadside. The current star collecting is really, really good. It's probably one of the best ones. And if you're going to replace it, please do it properly. And that's all I can think of for now. If you have other ideas or changes you'd like to see for the Tau or for their auxiliaries or anything Tau related, drop them in the comments below. I would like to discuss them there. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.